Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. I'm Suzanne Monroe, founder of the International Association of Wellness Professionals, where I've been teaching people how to live a life of wellness, tap into their passion, and go for their dreams for over 15 years. I believe living well and dreaming big starts with ourselves. This podcast will show you how to create a healthy, holistic life, empower your mindset, follow your dreams, and make a big impact. Let's dive in right now. Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. In today's episode, we're talking about how to expertly manage your energy every day. And I'm not just talking about the energy you have, that's your physical energy that comes from your physical health and how you feel every day, though that's super important, right? But instead, we're looking at the energy that's often more subtle, more emotional and mental. It's the energy we have that relates to how we interact with others, how we move throughout our days, and basically how we show up in our lives. So if you want to learn how to harness this internal energy so you can feel more empowered every day and actually have more energy every day, then I think you're going to enjoy today's conversation. Let's get started. So hi, everyone. I'm excited to be talking with you today about an important topic, energy. And when it comes to wellness, we often talk about increasing our energy and using our energy as a check for how well we're doing in any given moment. And really, our energy can be a signal to how things are going with our health. But there's another aspect of energy that we like to explore too. And this relates more to really how we manage our energy and use kind of our internal energy, not only with ourselves, but in relationship to others, and how we kind of show up in the world based on how our energy is doing. And so that's what we're talking about today, how to expertly manage your energy every day. And I'm really excited we're talking about managing our energy because I think it's something that we don't often think about, but it's just a part of who we are, and it truly impacts how we show up and how we feel every day. So this is huge. It is something that can really affect how we feel and just how we're living our lives. So that's kind of what we're talking about. The funny thing is, though, I used to think that my energy, how much energy I had, was just related to like how my physical health. I thought it came from like having a good night's sleep or eating well. But what I came to realize is those things, yes, are super important for our physical health. But even with doing everything well in all of those areas, your energy can still be impacted by how you deal with challenges and stress, how you relate to others and circumstances in your life. And so it's kind of this invisible layer that's always ebbing and flowing between us and really everything around us. So that's what we're talking about today. I always like to start out with sort of a definition of the topic at hand. It gives us a good starting point. And the definition of energy, according to dictionary.com, there were several definitions, but one of them was the capacity for vigorous activity. And the other one was a secondary definition was the adequate amount of power. So with this idea of capacity and power, it sounds kind of like a machine. Yet I think if we think of our own capacity, we can think of how our energy either allows us to operate at our own capacity, like our highest level of doing and being, and does it give us an adequate amount of power? And I think here of just like being empowered. Do we come from an empowered place with our energy when we relate to others and to our lives? And so that's kind of the angle we're taking here today. We're going to talk about 3 tips to expertly manage your energy every day. And really, it starts with ourselves. That's our starting point. So the first step is to manage your own personal energy. What does this even mean? We hear about this, right? If we don't care for our personal energy, to me, it's kind of like we're going to get behind the 8 ball, so to speak, when it comes to everything else we have to do and everything that comes our way, right? It's like if we don't put ourselves first when it comes to energy, a lot can go wrong. So if we want to have more empowered ways of managing our energy with others, with our work, or whatever it is, we have to start with understanding ourselves and how our own energy works. And I will say this, everyone is different when it comes to what works for them. So it starts with really getting to know yourself and your own energy and what you can do to kind of keep it in a good place, really. So we're going to talk about some tips right now as it relates to this for yourself. The first tip I want to share is working with what I call a habit of energy scale. Okay. And you can do this on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, but let's just say 1 to 5. Okay. And at the top, 5, this is when you have like what you're doing brings you the most energy. It restores you, it positively impacts your energy. So that's a 5. A 1 is quite the opposite. It depletes your energy, right? And then there can be things in between. And you can do this with yourself throughout the day. You can start making a list of kind of all your habits and things that are happening to you throughout the day, right? Are you doing things that are enhancing your energy or depleting your energy? And just check in with yourself, right? Like before coming on today for this episode, I decided to go for a walk. It's pretty cold where I am right now, but it's sunny. And while I could do a lot of things before and have a lot to kind of fill in with, and I have other work to do, I was like, you know what? This is going to really enhance my energy. Don't I just seem more alive today? Right? So like that is something that I felt would be really energy enhancing. Right. And on the other hand, there's things that deplete our energy, and we can't necessarily get rid of all these things. But there are some things that we're doing sometimes just on a daily basis that we can shift. So first of all, it's bringing that awareness to it. And so example of things that might be a 1 for you could be like, hey, I'm multitasking again. You know what? This is really depleting my energy. Or gosh, I've been saying yes to everyone and everything. I'm doing it again. That's a 1. Right? Or maybe, gosh, you know what? I'm the primary person in my household who cooks. And somehow I've gotten to the point where I'm making separate meals for everybody. Like everybody's so picky, and this person likes this, and I'm willing to do this. And I'm like a short order cook. What happened here? Right? Not speaking from experience. That's a level 1 activity, right? Or maybe I'm like staying up late, binging Netflix. Not that there's anything wrong with catching a good series on Netflix, right? But are you doing it again where you're like way past your bedtime and then you really can't fall asleep and you don't have that great start to the next day? That's a 1. Right. And of course, a 5 could be things like, well, like I said, I went for my walk this morning. Maybe you're filling yourself up with a healthy breakfast that, makes you feel energized in the morning instead of, stopping at the coffee shop for that coffee and that piece of bakery that it tastes really good, but it doesn't really help your energy. Right. Or, there's a lot of things, maybe like to read a book before bed or journal. Right. We all know there's things that make us feel better and things that make us feel worse, but like we just get in these like routines. Right. So working with this energy habit scale can help you to kind of just check in with yourself. And it's also tied to doing what I call an energy audit. Okay. So you want to really check in with your own personal energy and notice when it's at its highest and when it's at its lowest, and really try to plan your day, plan your task and your activities accordingly as much as you can, right? So you want to build in time for things that restore you. You want to build in time to relax and reset so that you can put your energy back into your body and really start to balance that internal energy. And this is kind of interesting because when you're doing an energy audit, you might find that you have certain high energy times, right? So we're not just looking at the stuff that we do, but we're kind of looking at our own cycles. And everybody's a little bit different with this. So you might find you have high energy times like in the morning. This is when you do like your creative thought and your big picture planning, right? Versus maybe you have high energy in the morning, but all of a sudden you decide you're going to check social media. That might not have been the best time for you to spend an hour and a half on social media, even though you want to see what was going on out there. And even if it's part of your work, right? Connecting in with your community or your clients, that might be something that's better to do for you like around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So this is what the energy audit is about, is knowing when are your high times, when are your low times, and kind of working with that and building in the things that you do around those times, right? Because we're not meant to always be at a super high energy level. There's going to be ebbs and flows, not only through the day, but through the year, through the seasons, and even through the month, especially for women, right? I've talked about this before, but our cycles, we have different weeks where our energy changes. And the more we can listen into that, like I plan a lot of my work around that. I know for certain weeks, I have a certain type of energy, and that's when I'm going to be building and creating. And other weeks, I feel more inward, and that's when I'm going to be doing some more internal work, right? So like do these energy audits for yourself. It really can make a difference. And again, just know it's different for every person, right? Every person listening today is going to have a different energy audit. Again, some people have more energy in the morning, some are slower starters. For me, I kind of start out slowly, but I do have my best energy mid-morning. So right around 10 or 11 o'clock, that's my best time for like doing projects, thinking creatively, doing podcast episodes, connecting with the community. I really try to remember that my energy can get lower in the day. And this is a good time for me to step back, to restore, do some less focused tasks, maybe get out and do something that brings me some more energy restoration as a 5 for me to kind of boost my energy a little bit. It's super hard to remember to do this though when you get going with things, right? It's like, yeah, this all makes sense, but like, am I actually going to do it, right? So building in these relaxation and restoration times can really support you to take a minute just to be like, okay, where am I with this, right? What can I do that's going to be a 5 energy booster right now? And then where am I? Like, what do I want to do next, right? Because we all have choices that we have to make really around how we're going to use our energy. I have my morning reflection time, and this can vary, but it can be yoga, it can be meditation, it can be journaling, it can be a walk in nature, but it's really a time to reflect on how I really want to use my energy that day. And if I skip that, boy, do I get off to the races and go in a totally different direction than what I really would have intended. It's amazing to see that. So that's super, super important for me. So what is your thing? So that is step 1. Checking in with your own energy, managing your own personal energy, and getting clear on what it is for you. Because now step 2 is managing your energy with others, which you really can't do effectively unless you've started with yourself. So let's talk about step 2, managing your energy with others. When we talk about managing energy with others, this can be relationships. So it can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be your coworkers. Obviously, many of our listeners are holistic wellness coaches. So it can be for you, it can be your coaching clients. It's really important to manage your energy when it comes to supporting people. And in this case, your coaching clients. It can be with anyone you're interacting with. Even when you're not interacting directly, maybe you've noticed that another person can sort of still be weighing on your energy. It might be something they said or did, and now like you're carrying it with you. That's because there's an energy between two people. It can be a positive one. It can be a negative one. It can be one way. It can be two way. It can be balanced or imbalanced. What matters here is first becoming aware that you are likely impacted by other people's energy. This is a huge awareness. It might not be something you think about. But if you just say, hey, I actually am impacted other people's energy, and for a whole day, I'm just going to see if I notice that, you probably will notice that. Right now, some of us are highly sensitive to other people's energy. I'm one of those people. And so if I don't stay aware of this energy exchange that's always happening, I can easily get weighed down or off track. I can easily sort of start taking on someone else's energy. Right? So I have to be really aware of that. And maybe some of you can relate. Do you ever walk into a room and feel that the energy is off? Yeah. Or do you have a conversation with someone and walk away feeling weighed down? Or maybe you feel better than where you were before, right? People can like positively impact your energy too. I think it's happening all the time. We're just not always aware. So if that's true, and you can test this out for yourself, and again, some people are going to be more highly sensitive to this than others, right? There's some things we want to do when we think about managing our energy with others in relationship to others. I think the biggest thing to really think about is that it's very easy to take on the role of being responsible for other people's feelings and problems and their energy. We do this partly, I think, because our ego is wanting to be in control. And also because we're givers, we're helpers, we're healers, we might even be people pleasers, right? And so we're in the role of like helping people. So if someone's having a challenge, the question is, do you try to solve it for them? Or do you listen and just see where they are, right? Because oftentimes we want to fix or solve other people's problems or dilemmas when what they really want is just an empathic ear, right? This is probably true of a lot of people when something's going on for them. They just kind of want to be heard and acknowledged. And maybe you felt this way before too. It happens a lot in our romantic relationships with our spouses and our partners, right? We just want to come home and like maybe vent about something or share where we are. And then maybe our partner tries to solve it for us. And we're like, no, I just need to get this out, right? So this can happen. And so what do we do? Well, if you're in that experience, you're like, oh, why doesn't my partner or my friend or whoever I'm in relationship with respond the way I want them to? The important thing is to start practicing this for yourself as you relate to others. First of all, you can model to others, but you can also see what it's like. So the next time someone comes to you and they're really stressed out or they're having a challenge, what would it be like for you to just listen, to acknowledge where they are, right? Maybe ask them some questions, curious questions, as opposed to telling them what to do next, right? I think when you see how this works, as you do it for others, you begin to model for others. And then you can be more clear in expressing what your own needs are. So that is one of the tips for managing your energy as it relates to being in relationship with others. The other one I want to mention is the power of water. Water it has amazing benefits. We talk a lot about water here when we talk about Wellness 360 at the IAWP. And it has a lot to do with our emotions, not just the water that we drink, but water symbolically is very cleansing, right? So you can do a lot of things to kind of cleanse symbolically the energy of other people. At the end of the day, you might take a long shower if you've had a really long day and maybe you've been in a lot of interactions and now you're coming into maybe family time or personal time and you want to shift gears. You want to be present, but yet you're kind of still carrying all these other things, right? Maybe you wash it away. If you can't just take a shower, maybe you're at work or somewhere else, you can even wash your hands, right? You're not just washing your hands, you're kind of thinking about moving off some of this energy, right? Is it actually moving it off? This is all really mental. This is all sort of internal. This is all like in our mindset. So anything we can do to try to let it go can be supportive, right? Sometimes we talk about people who are energy vampires, right? Where they're like, it feels like they're just pulling on your energy. And we can kind of blame that on them and be like, oh, they're energy vampires. But remember, as maybe a highly sensitive person or someone who feels other people's energy, it's not just about them, it's also about you. You have to learn to protect your own energy, right? It's not about blaming that person that they took your energy, is that maybe you need to learn to kind of protect and care for your own energy in those types of situations, yet you can still take care of yourself after and kind of washing it off. Another way to release this energy, if it's really heavy, as we talk about water and emotions, is crying, right? How often do we try to like avoid crying? We're like, oh, crying is bad. I can't break down, right? I can't do that. Crying is such an amazing way to release energy. It's all that stuck energy that's in there. It's not bad to cry or break down, right? And once I got used to this, boy, I love crying now. Ask my husband. I love crying. And, he had to get used to that too, right? Because as a problem solver or someone who wants to help, right? His first reaction would be like, what can I do? Right? But as we've grown together and to realize, no, I'm not looking for that solution, right? This is just a release. And so you can do that with others, but maybe you need to be by yourself. Maybe you just need to like go and release and you can feel a lot better after too. One final thing I want to share about managing your relationship, you're managing your energy in relationships, especially if you're in the helping and healing profession, you're working one-on-one with people, you're coaching people. This is a good one because I want you to think about this idea of residue. In the coaching field, we call this client residue, where you're really getting in deep with someone, maybe during a coaching session, and you're supporting them. And that session is over and they're gone, but you're still carrying whatever happened, right? This happens. This is real. I used to experience this. I would have several clients in a row and I would just keep building up this residue, and then I would go home and I would just be so depleted, right? One of the things I've shared over the years with our holistic wellness coaches that I've done that's very supportive, and I think is I've seen other people using can be supportive, is finding ways to ground yourself before and after so that you don't carry that client residue. One of the tips is working with the bubble, or the pink bubble, as I call it. You can choose any color you want. I like the color pink. It's really just a visualization exercise where you get to picture yourself being protected from another person's energy. So you can basically picture yourself with a pink bubble around you, right? And now the bubble allows you to see and talk and be a part of a conversation. It actually allows you to be very present, but it also at the same time doesn't allow anyone to pop the bubble. The bubble it's transparent, but it sort of protects your energy. Right? So if you just go, oh, I got a pink bubble, like it's not going to work. You kind of have to visualize yourself before you're going into a situation. And really that's what's grounding you, right? And it's that reminder for you. It's kind of that ritual. But in any moment, you can kind of breathe into that bubble. You might be in that heated conversation, or you might be supporting someone and you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel I'm taking this on. Where's that bubble that you've created for your energy? And this really does work really well for those of you who are supporting others in any capacity, working one-on-one with them, helping them to solve challenges so that you can actually stay in that role of supporting them rather than taking on what's going on for them, right? So this isn't just about you. It's also about how you can be that support for them. And you can do this before. You can also kind of pop the bubble after and get the work with the client residue going away. You can go back to some of those water things, but you really want to kind of do some of these things before and after to work with the energy and the interaction that you just had. Let's talk about step 3 now. We've talked about managing our own personal energy, managing our energy in relationships. And now we're going to take it to the next level, which is when we're out there in the world dreaming big and we're making an impact in our own business or our own career. How do we manage our energy there? And this is huge, of course, because again, if you don't do step 1 and step 2, it's going to be hard to do this step, because it does start with taking care of you and then those interactions with others, and then finally how you kind of show up in the world. In many ways, managing your energy is about setting boundaries and also claiming what you want for yourself. So whether you're a holistic wellness coach who is following your passion and dreaming big and setting up your own business, or maybe you're adding on wellness coaching to a career in some way, or maybe you're just someone who's listening in who wants to manage your own career better. Whatever it is you're doing now, it's super important to carve out your time to manage how you want your day to look, how you want to show up, and also what's most important to you. Where do you want to put that energy? Because there's so much going on in any given day that if we don't set the stage for where we want our energy to go, it's just going to go everywhere, and it's going to go with whatever's right in front of us. One of the tips for this step is called Cabo. And this is not like flying off to Cabo for a vacation on the beach, though that could be good. Cabo stands for cease, automate, batch, and outsource. Cease, automate, batch, and outsource. So let's walk through this. Cabo is what you want to do to your to-do list and all of the things you have to do in a day to really better manage your energy and your time. So the C stands for cease. And cease is about doing the things that no longer serve you. Cease doing them. These are the things that don't really move forward. Can you cease doing those? Now, when I talk to people about this, they're like, well, all of a sudden I can't get rid of all these things that people have come to rely on me for. This is about small steps. This is about looking at one or two things that you can begin to change. And maybe over a time period, you cease doing more and more of the things that no longer serve you. And again, every day we're doing so many things that are just time suckers. They're not really moving us forward, right? And I'll say this is hard for me too, because I know that I can feel a sense of accomplishment just getting stuff done. Even if it's all the little rocks versus, the big rocks, as they say, I can feel really like, oh, yay, I got 10 little rocks done that do not move the dial forward at all, but ooh, I got to cross off my to-do list, right? There's something there that kind of feels good, but it's a temporary thing, right? I feel much better if I can carve out the time to work on something really big and important and dedicate my time to that, shut everything else down. That's a bigger win. So I have to really watch this for myself because I do love those to-do lists. So you can look, what are some of the things that you could cease doing, right? And sometimes like in the beginning, you'll be like, nope, there's just, these are all things I have to do. But I encourage you to try it out. Pick one thing that you can cease doing and just see how you feel. So that's step one in Cabo. Step two is automate. Of course, you want to automate the tasks that you're doing on a consistent basis that are probably, again, time suckers. And maybe there's a way to automate it, right? We live in a world of automation now. Are you somebody who likes to send out a lot of emails? Could you have an email template that you could use, right? Or how can you kind of plan your schedule so that what you're doing is automated and you're looking at, on this day, I'm kind of bulking these things together and I'm creating systems for what I'm doing versus like, I'm just kind of doing all these things all at once, right? So automate. What can you automate? And again, you can't automate everything, but some things you can automate, especially with the technology we have today. Are you sending emails back and forth with people trying to schedule time and figure out what the right time is versus here's my link to my scheduling calendar. Here's the times I have open, and then you're scheduled, right? That's another example. So cease, automate. The third step is batch, batching items together and doing as many as you can at once that fit into that category, right? We also call this task blocks. This is, let's say you're in your coaching practice or in your business, you have to send out email newsletters. And you're finding you send it out weekly and there you are again. Okay, it's Tuesday and you're trying to get all these done and you're back to where you were. What if you carved out some time to write your email newsletters for the entire rest of the month, or even 2 months or 3 months? Or I know people that go on a retreat, a writing retreat for a day or two, and they write all their content for the rest of the year. See, the amazing thing about batching is that you get into a groove, you get into a flow, and you can actually produce things that are even more high quality because you're in the zone of that thing versus like stop, start, stop, start. So look at what you could batch, right? Even in your personal life, could you batch your cooking? Right? Maybe on Sundays, you want to batch all your meals for the week and get them all prepared and ready. And then you don't have to stop and start throughout the day. The meals are ready, especially now when so many people are at home with their families and all of a sudden you found yourself, you got 3 meals a day at home for everybody, right? They're in the kitchen again. This is crazy, right? So how can you batch some of that? And this also brings me to the fourth step, outsource. What can you outsource? Right? You're at home with the family, everybody's cooking, and all right, kids are in charge of lunchtime now. Or what meals are you doing this week? Right? Because all of a sudden, for those of us who are the care providers in our family, right? We've taken on this other huge role that now we're like carrying 24/7 on top of maybe our other jobs and passions that we're following, and on top of the stressors that we're experiencing today, right? This is creating a big time burnout for people. So we have to find out how we can get support. And often the support is right in front of us. It's our very own family. And if your role has been one thing, guess what? Times have changed. We're living in a different time right now. And it might be time to move some roles around a little bit, ask for support. Right? So outsourcing is huge. You can do it in your life. You can do it in your business. You can do it in your coaching practice. And there's so many things that you can outsource today to people who that is their skill set. So this is partially about getting really clear on like, what do you love to do and what are you really good at? Everything else, let's get that out of there. Maybe you just love coaching your clients, right? Or you love creating videos, right? But you don't love all these other things that you have to do. Who can step in and do some of those things? These are some of the things you want to start asking yourself as you think about outsourcing, because someone else can probably do it faster, cheaper, better, and easier for you, and they love doing it. Now, again, you may not be able to outsource everything, but ultimately you want to get to the place that you're only doing things that only you can do and also that you love to do, right? Again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not meant to be a quick fix. This is a change that happens over time. So I love Cabo. I love the 4 steps of Cabo. And the truth is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So how are we going to use them? In fact, I was reading an article the other day on how Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, spends his time. And you know what? It reminds me a bit of some of our tips today, because first of all, he takes that reflection time in the morning. He takes a really slow start to his morning. He has breakfast with his family. He does things that fill him up. He calls it puttering. He kind of likes to do mindless tasks in the morning, and they're relaxing to him. And he doesn't get into his office and do his first meeting until 10 o'clock. Okay. And this is when he does what he calls all of his high Q meetings early, because he has this great energy in that mid-morning time frame. And so he's going to do all his high Q stuff. These are the things that are going to require the most of him to be creative or mentally challenging. And then he prioritizes throughout the day. And he'd rather make a smaller number of high quality decisions than a bunch of less important decisions. Now, you can think about it the same way. You can be thinking about decisions or tasks. You want to do those high quality tasks or decisions versus a bunch of less little teeny ones that don't add up to anything, right? And finally, at the end of the day, Jeff Bezos, he draws a line and he says, that's it. I'm just going to have to tackle the rest of this tomorrow. And he really goes into prioritizing his own self-care, because let's face it, he's never going to be done, right? There's always more to do. And so it seems really simple, but the key is that he focuses on doing the main things that are going to move him forward, right? And he takes that relaxation time that's important to him in the morning and at the end of the day. And you know, I once heard that in order to be successful in business and in our careers, the only thing you want to be doing every day is the highest use of your time, plus anything else that you love to do that takes care of you. Again, that highest use is what you love to be doing and what you're really good at. Right? And then everything else should be like fun and all of your downtime. Now that's an ideal world, and it doesn't always happen when we're first building our careers and starting out in a new business or building a coaching practice, right? But I think if we have this awareness, it's going to help us as we start to add on more and more to what we're doing and look at what really, really matters. Again, we can all hear this and be like, oh, that'd be nice, but it's not about doing it perfect. It's not about making it happen all overnight. It's not about hearing this and being like, oh my gosh, I feel so frustrated. I'm not doing any of these things. It's about considering maybe just one little thing you can do differently, right? And deciding that what you do matters and that you matter and your energy matters, right? And when you get that, it's kind of like, okay, I'm saying no to this because it's going to allow me to say yes to this, right? So I'm saying no to this, but it's going to give me more time and energy for something else. Those are our 3 tips to really learning how to manage your energy and take your energy to the next level and expertly manage your energy every day. It's been fun being here with everybody today. Let's go now to our talk back time with our coaches who are joining us live out there. And I'd love to hear from you. Any feedback, any thoughts coming through as you heard our tips today. I saw a lot of people taking notes, some people commenting in the chat, kind of taking down what was coming through for you. And I'd love to start out, maybe hear from one person who has a breakthrough about something that maybe you've been doing and you're going to do differently, or something that came through on this call. So all you have to do is raise your hand if you're on video. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself and just go ahead and start chatting. I see Yumie out there. Let's give Yumie a microphone. Hi, Yumie.
Hello, good
How,
morning.
how are you today?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good. I really love. Thank you so much for sharing that tips, and I really enjoy about, especially for the energies. Um, when whenever I try to start the coaching with others, I even 5 minutes, if I don't have time, I try to just to sit down and take a deep breathing to like a connect to myself in order to, as you said, to protect myself as an energy,
Mhm.
even through the Zoom. Most of the time I do in a Zoom, but still, if I listen to the clients, sense I can somehow sense of the energies that they really wants to soak you, if you will. So that try to protect myself, as you said. So just a deep breathing, kind of a meditation, and set the core energy and just to relax so that it's very different if I do it or if I don't. I feel very different. If I do it, I can protect myself and can really support the clients. But if I didn't have time and not do it, and I feel after, you know, 45 minutes, 1 hour, I have to really sort of, I need to get out of this space or do something else. So it's really crucial whether I do it or not. So the energy part is very, very important. And then I find it's you know, many, I think everybody has a different way to do it, but for myself, it really works.
I love that. First of all, I love that you found something that works for you and that you've tried it out and you see what happens when you do it and what happens when you don't do it, right? Like you notice that difference. So that's huge because you've just created for yourself a tool that manages your energy. And that's huge. And I think that's so interesting how there's times when you do it and times when you don't and you notice it.
Mhm. Yeah, that was yeah, it's amazing, and I really sense it because I'm very, very sensitive. So yeah, even not only just supporting the clients, also with the family or friends, it's easy to like receive the energy. If it's good, it's okay. But if the most of the time people wants to talk and wants to be heard, these energies is really huge. So have to really protect myself not to really be soaked. So yeah, it's very important, and it really it's good to know that whether which is work and which doesn't work.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing, Yumi. I love that tip.
thank you.
And also, I just love, thinking about the breath, like you said, because the breath in itself is like the water. It kind of cleanses, but it does bring us into that present moment. And I love how you do it before. But what I also think is neat is that if you find yourself getting off track, you can come back to whatever your grounding technique was. So if it was the pink bubble, if it was something else, or in Yumi's case, it was the breathing, right? So now you're with someone, either your coaching session or talking with someone else, and you come back to that breath, which you had already kind of set for yourself, but there's that reminder. So I think that's really huge. Anybody else want to share? Go ahead, just raise your hand or turn on your mic. I see Chantal out there. Let me give you a microphone. Hi, how are you?
Hi, but good, thank you. Well, I just want to say two things. First, this topic so resonates with me. I think it was about 3 years ago when I actually came across or had this breakthrough that energy, matters, and that I was actually picking up other people's energy without knowing it. And so what I want to share today is basically that breakthrough really helped me basically stay grounded after that, because I didn't realize before why I was so tired sometimes during the day. And since I've realized that I was actually picking up other people's energy more than actually mine, um, I've been able to actually found or integrate practices during my day to actually, clear it up or just recenter it and be able to make the difference, saying, am I feeling down because I actually need to do something to care for myself, or am I feeling down because I just picked it up from other people? And that really made a big difference. And now I'm glad to be participating here today and listening to different tips on how to be able to protect my own energy and not get confused with my clients' energy as I get into more coaching, because it's so easy to just get into our stories and help, wanting to help them. But there's this background thing going on where people, they also share their energy, whether you notice or not. And I do pick it up a lot. So thanks for all the tips, the pink bubble and the breathing. If others have, additional tips as to how to, as you go through multiple coaching sessions with clients, how do you recenter if you don't have a lot of time to do it? Because I do it in the morning, I do it in the afternoon, and different times during the day where, I do my own practice, go walk, run, go in nature, meditation, etc. But in between clients, how do you do that? I wonder.
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you remember, because you said you have these things that you do now that keep you kind of grounded and protect your energy and help keep it in a good place. But how do you remember to do them? Is it that you're noticing you're getting off track, or do you just have set times? Like, what keeps you on track?
I have some routines, some habits that I do so during the day, but it's, for me, it's really, it's a good question. How do I keep track of that? It's really whenever I start to feel down, feel more negative, where I feel overwhelmed, distracted, or when I find my attention is going in 10,000 directions as opposed to being in here or focused on the moment. This is where I'm checking in with myself, saying, "Oh, what's going on here? Like, where's my energy?" Right? And this is usually when I can tell, like, okay, do I need to take a break now? Go do something else, recharge. That's how I do it usually.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Chantal. I love that. And what I also got from that is that I think it's common for all of us well, once we become aware of our energy being impacted throughout the day in this way, then we can respond like how Chantal is doing. She has her tools and things that works for her, and she's staying aware and noticing, okay, and now I'm going to do something about it versus I'm not going to do something about it. Right. And I think, and I'm similar where I want to get to next. And I think the next level of potential for all of us is that we aren't being reactive, but we can be preventative with our energy. Right? Like, what are the things we're going to do throughout the day, regardless of whether we're noticing that, to keep us in this place, in a powerful place, an empowered place. And so that maybe those things happen and they don't even affect us. We don't even have to do anything because we're already coming from that place. So it's interesting. And I love how Chantal has these activities that she knows just works for her. She's like, you can just like pull them out of your little toolkit. Well, what am I going to do next? So that's really good. Aditi says releasing energy by crying was a breakthrough for her today. She always felt that it created a sad environment, and her husband is like, what can he do? Now you feel nothing wrong with crying, and washing hands and letting go is also helpful. Aditi, this is huge, right? Because we've been taught many things. One, we don't want to be weak. One, we don't want to be sad. Also, especially in the holistic field, we're focused on, we have to stay positive, right? So we look at negative emotions like sadness and crying is like, oh, that's bad, right? But as we've talked about before, our emotions are here to serve us, and they're actually all good. And then when we resist those negative ones, they don't go away, everybody. They just kind of build up inside. And that's why crying is so amazing, right? It releases, it allows that emotion to come forward. And I'll tell you this, because now that I'm an experienced crier, I can see the times that I don't cry and I just let that pain build up, whether it's stress or whatever. And the times that I'm like, I'm just going to cry. And like, it might even be a short crying session, 2 minutes. And I'm like, wow, it feels so good now. It doesn't have to be like this big deal, though. I'll tell you this, if you haven't allowed yourself that crying in that process, the first few times might be a big deal, because you're not only crying about what it is you're releasing now, but you're crying about a lot of things that need to be released. So you might scare yourself and be like, wow, that was a long crying episode. I'm not sure this was a good idea, Suzanne, but just know you're kind of getting rid of some of that residual, right? And may not always be that way. On the other hand, sometimes a big cry is what is needed. So keep that in mind. Anybody else out there want to share what's coming up today? Topics or things, how this relates to what you're going to be doing next. I think.
Hi, this is Kelly. It's
Hi,
Kelly
Kelly.
again.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Hello. I would like to share that I am a trained teacher with Kundalini Yoga, and we do mantras before we teach a class to help us call in our guides and our teachers and our angels called Om Namo Gurudev Namo. And we also have a protective prayer called Ab Gure Name. And I do that before I actually go to teaching and coaching clients. And that's my protection for my energy. And it not only protects me, it protects them so that I can be in a space that's open to hear them and receive them as a whole person. So I like to do that.
That's powerful, Kelly. Mantras, prayers, what's coming to mind, rituals, anything that allows you to actually be grounded and become present. And I love what you said, Kelly. It's not just for you, it's also for them. And how amazing we can take care of ourselves. And at the same time, it allows us to better support others in our lives.
Exactly. And I also like to use crystals, to kind of shield over afterward or smudging afterward to kind of clear the area or the room if you feel some sort of energy that's not what you want around you and to clear it up. So I do that as well. But the mantras work wonders. I love them.
Thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Sure.
And you know what? There's so many different tools, right? She was mentioning smudging, crystals, and everybody finds different things that work for them. And whether you think, oh, those things don't work or those things do work, it's really your belief about those things, right? And it's not just that, it's the ritual, right? It's the practice. So whatever it is for you, make that a practice to help you to balance your energy. And it can be anything. And what matters is that it feels good for you. I love that so much that you shared that. Anybody else out there want to share questions? Susan, I see Susan out there. Hi, Susan.
Hello. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Personally, I have this little nightlight that is in my bathroom, and it's an angel. And I've had it for a long time, but just recently, I've really used it just when I need to center myself. Like I'll turn it on, and I've just come up with my own ritual. When I turn it on, no matter if it's dark or daylight, I just stop and I shut my eyes and I just take 3 deep breaths, and it just really helps me, to recenter myself. So whatever may be coming up that day that I feel like I need it. And I always turn it on right before bed. And also just immediately, that's almost like my gratitude for the day. So when I turn it on at night, I just, again, do those deep breaths and just really just say like a thank you for all the positive things that have come up in the day. So that's really helped me. And that's fairly new practice for me just in the last couple of months. And now it's just, part of my daily routine that I really enjoy.
Okay, I got goosebumps when you were saying that, because it was just like, I could just picture you turning on this little angel nightlight. And it's like, who here would have come up with that tip, right? Like that's very unique to you, but that's why it's so amazing, because it's something that speaks to you. You had it, you're doing it. It's, and that's why I want to say for anybody, it's possible to find something that supports you, right? And it could be anything. And that is just so beautiful that you have this little tool and kind of reminder and practice now. And it's part of your routine. I love that so much, Susan. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Dave is asking, is there anything you can give as a gift to someone who is negative or has negative energy to help them get rid of their negativity, so to speak, without them knowing that's what it's for? Well, of course, you could share many of the tools and things that people are doing today, right? But I would also ask you to consider why you feel you need to get rid of someone else's negativity, right? if we go back to what we said before, there's a part of us that wants to help others change and transform and be more positive and be healthier and whatever it is. And if we remember, one of our big philosophies here at the IAWP is be the guide, not the guru, right? And it applies here too, because if we're the guide, we get to support that person from wherever they are. We don't need to change or fix or necessarily solve the problem for them. And they have to be willing, right? Especially when it comes to coaching clients, they have to be willing, which is why they decide to become a client, versus people in our life. That can be a lot harder, Dave, right? Whether it's family members or friends that we know need our help. But if they haven't raised their hand and haven't really asked for that help, if this person hasn't come to you and said, wow, Dave, you seem like such a positive person. I always feel so negative. What can I do? If they're not asking, it's going to be really hard to shift that for someone else, because the first step to transformation is to be aware and be willing, right? So that's kind of my answer to that. And maybe, that is kind of something to kind of take in. With that being said, I'm sure there's so many things you could do to brighten up somebody's day, to help them to feel better, to feel more positive, but it's not going to get to the underlying root of their negativity. So yes, a kind word, or just listening to that person, right? Or anything that speaks to you, right? But again, if that's where their overall sense of where they are, it's going to be hard to kind of change that pattern. So I would say a great gift for you as a coach would be to reach out to them and see if they were interested in doing a discovery session, right? Because that would be a time for you to explore further if this is something that they want to change. And if so, then you might be able to support them further. Great question, though. I love that question. Anybody else out there want to share or have questions? Things you're going to do next after this call? Mikhaila is raising her hand. Hi, Mikhaila.
Hey, I was just thinking about what Chantal said earlier about kind of like getting your energy back between coaching sessions, because that's something that I struggled with too. And what I've been doing for like the past couple weeks is like closing all the tabs on my computer. And I'm someone who has like 15 tabs open at the top with like everything that I'm doing. But I find that closing like the whole tabs down and starting a new one with a new person helps to kind of like, it's just new. And then at night, I completely shut my laptop off. Whereas before I used to just put it on sleep so that when I open it the next day, it's like where I left off. But I found that shutting it completely down in between days and like closing all my tabs down in between people helps.
This is huge, right? It seems so simple, but it kind of covers a couple different areas. One is like you're shutting all this down so you really can't multitask, right? So like that's just a whole energy thing in of itself. But it sounds like for you, Mikhaila, there's almost like there's that energetic component to it where you're like, I'm closing this down now. I'm starting fresh. I just love how you have figured. How did you figure this out that you needed to do this?
In all honesty, one day I was just really pissed off and I didn't feel like doing anything anymore. So I was just like, I'm going to just shut everything down. And then it was fun. So I kept doing it.
That's awesome. I love that. I'm so glad you shared that tip. Thank you. Something simple, but can be such a big change, not only in how we actually plan our day and like what we get done, but also just in our own energy and how we feel about things. So that's very fun. Anybody else out there have questions or thoughts? Aditi, you're raising your hand. You're raising your finger, so I'm going to give you a microphone. Hi, Aditi.
Hi. So something happening with me nowadays, I have clients and their problems I'm listening, and I notice when I'm doing meditation, their problems coming in my mind, and like it's ongoing thoughts I notice in my meditation. And I feel like I'm taking too much like this energy, and I feel like it disturbing me sometimes. So you told me about like visualize the balloon, pink balloon, and protect, not take the energy. So something, do you advise to visualize like before session or something?
Let me make sure I'm understanding what's happening. It sounds like, and let me know if this is correct. Are you saying that you've been doing some meditations and things like that, and you're actually getting like thoughts and things during the meditation about people?
Yeah. So I'm like too much in coaching, like practicing clients, and I always like thinking about their what can I do, or how can I solve the problem, or their issues. And during daytime I don't notice much, but when I'm meditation, when I'm sitting in silent, I notice that these thoughts coming in my mind, and I should like be aware of not taking too much of these things in myself, so I will need to protect myself as well.
Okay, this is a good question. I think two different things are kind of coming through on this. The first one is kind of similar to what Mikhaila said about like closing your computer down, like literally closing down every session that you do. Like I said before, I would just go on to the next session or whatever. And then I'd be thinking all these thoughts later about somebody and like, oh, making notes on a napkin. So important to do is to actually carve out extra time after every session. Let's say your sessions with a client are 45 minutes. You really want that session for your own time to be an hour, so that you have 15 minutes, and maybe some of the time is before to do the pink bubble or whatever is grounding for you, but to close out the session. So you're done with your client and now you have 10 or 15 minutes, and you're going to literally write down maybe your thoughts, things for next time. Let all that stuff that wants to come through right now in that task block. You're in the task block of coaching. Let all the stuff come down. I'm sensing that's what's happening is you're not doing that. You're moving on, and that stuff is still there. It's trying to come through. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
that's exactly. And thank you so much. Yeah, I'm going to do this thing now. I'm going to write down and take like 1 hour and 45 minutes session, 15 minutes of writing. That will help me a lot.
Right. And then you're literally closing it out. You're like Mikhaila, I'm closing down these notes. And guess what? I'm not going to revisit these notes until next session. And maybe I have a little time built in before each session where I look at all those notes, right? So like there's an energetic component, but it's also a boundary component. It's also a kind of a task block. The other thing I did want to say though, is if you are getting things coming through like in meditation about your clients, this can happen for people who are very spiritually connected, who are highly sensitive, that you might start getting like these intuitive hits, kind of different downloads, things that are like sort of meant to be coming through that weren't going to come through in your post-session notes. And that can be challenging because you're like, hey, I'm just trying to like ground myself or create peace and serenity for myself. Why am I thinking about all these other people, right? You might be dreaming about people. These are things that can happen. So it is important to have that closing out. But if you're someone who finds that you gain awareness through your meditation about clients, then you also want to create a space for that separate from your own meditation time. Maybe it's after the session. Maybe you write those notes down, and then before every session, you have a short meditation about that person. So you want to create that space to receive those insights that might be coming from your intuition or your higher self or your higher power, whatever you want to think of it. But create the space for that too, so that it's not trying to interrupt every meditation or relaxation activity you're doing for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So there could be something good there. That could be, but you just want to create the space for it.
Yeah. I'm surely going to do this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And congrats to Aditi, who is being featured in a publication as she's launching her new holistic wellness coaching practice. That's very exciting to see out there. And let's see, well, we are at the top of the hour. Is there any final questions or thoughts anybody has they want to share today? I don't see anybody else out there, but it has been so fun being with everybody for today's episode and for our talk back. We will see you guys back here next time. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Live Well, Dream Big. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and I want to invite you to take your next step toward living well and dreaming big by downloading the Live Well, Dream Big lifestyle book. It's the ultimate guide to becoming your best self and living life on your own terms. You can grab your complimentary copy by going to the link in the show notes or heading directly to iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide. That's iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide.